Your Creative Push, episode 28.
What is going to make you happy in the end? What is going to make you excited about waking up? And what are you going to go to bed with on your mind every night?
Welcome to Your Creative Push, the podcast that pushes you to pursue your creative passions. I'm your host, Youngman Brown, and my guest today is Kelly McKernan. Kelly is a fine artist and illustrator from Atlanta, Georgia, currently based in Nashville, Tennessee. She's been exhibiting her work with numerous galleries since 2009, including Thinkspace Gallery, Gallery 1988, Youngblood Gallery, and Beep Beep Gallery. She's also illustrated 3 children's books to date, and Kelly is also a member of the PRISMA Artist Collective. Kelly, tell me what I missed in that intro, and maybe give us a peek into your personal life.
Hey, awesome. So let's see. I am now showing a lot more with Arch Enemy Arts in Philadelphia. I will be showing with Haven Gallery in New York this summer. And Gallery 1988, I have a solo with this summer that I'm super excited about.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I live in Nashville. I've been here for a few years now. I have 2 cats. I'm married, and my husband's awesome. And we have a little girl. She's almost 2.
And one of the things that I love about you is you're so open about what it's like to be a mother and to also be an artist. Could you maybe talk about that a little bit? I know you've written about it a lot, and I'll link those notes in the show notes page at yourcreativepush.com/Kelly McKernan. But could you maybe talk about that a bit?
Yeah, sure. So it's a central part of my life now, having a kid. And everything changes, as anyone will say when they have children, but especially when, in my position where I am a full-time freelancer, I work from home, I don't have a second job. And so the dynamic of my work schedule and my process, everything just changed completely. So yeah, it's I feel like my work is so much better now because I'm definitely like hyper aware of how much time in a day I have to do anything at all, whether it's, 5 minutes to take a shower, whereas, previously it's like, I'll just take a bath because why not? That's fun. Yeah. Or, if she's napping and I'm like, okay, I have maybe an hour, hour and a half, if that, let's go. And so that's super anxiety inducing for someone like me when I don't have like a free schedule anymore. So everything revolves around my daughter. So because of that, I've had to really work on my personal process a lot. And being that previously I would just kind of willy-nilly a lot of my work where I'd go into a piece with maybe half of it planned out, and just see what happens. And, the end result can be kind of good sometimes or sometimes not. And I'm like, no big deal. I'll just learn from it and move on. And now it's like I have all these commitments and I have these goals that I can't really take that chance anymore to just go into something and be experimental with it. So now I plan my pieces out far more in advance. I get my sketches are a lot more detailed, and I do color studies. I shoot reference with a model, or I'll search for reference online, all kinds of things, so that when I'm going into a piece, there's still a degree that I don't know how it's going to turn out, and I like that. Otherwise, creating art's pretty boring for me if I know exactly what I want in the end and I get it. And now when I go into a piece, I have a pretty clear idea of what I want and what I'm going to get, so that in the end, it's not so much of a waste of time. If something doesn't turn out like I wanted, I still move on, or I might just redo it. But at least this way, my time's being used more wisely is basically what I'm saying. So I feel like my work has improved because I'm not taking as many chances as I was before.
And I think that's a good strategy is to, go into your art or whatever creative thing it is that you're doing with kind of an intention, like you said. What would you suggest to somebody who kind of is bad at that? somebody who kind of has a tough time planning and who kind of likes to do it like you used to?
Uh, have something specific in mind that you want to achieve, because I think when you go into a new, piece of work or writing or whatever creative endeavor you have, and you don't really know what you want, I think that you end up spending a lot of time just searching and kind of feeling things around. So when you go into a new project with, at least like 50 to 75% of it predetermined, I think that you have a much better direction going into it, and maybe you don't spend as much time trying to figure out as you go along, which, like I said previously, I loved that. I loved that about the work that I created, because it was, this incredible journey along the way. Like, what I love about creating is the fact that, I am creating something. It's the process. It's not the end product that I get excited about. So, for me, I still have a good amount of it that is totally undetermined, but, at least this way, my time is better spent.
Yeah. And going along with that, how would you suggest making sure to enjoy that time and kind of finding that balance when you do want to plan things out beforehand, but you want to enjoy the time in the moment and not feel like you're kind of like just filling in the pieces of something you've already like figured out?
Oh, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, like I said, leaving some of it up to chance is a key part of that. For me, working in watercolor, you have to have some part of the project to be determined by, the intuitive nature of working with watercolor. Something always happens. You can't always control what kind of texture you're going to get or that kind of thing. So that's how it is for me anyway. Yeah, I think sitting down and having an exact end point in mind can be really anxiety inducing. So, yeah, it might just be the medium you're working with that, some part of it allows it to be left up to chance.
So kind of still finding a way to roll the dice in some respect.
Yeah, I mean, just for me, some people love having every aspect of the project, worked out with like extensive notes and studies, and some people have to do that because for illustration jobs, like if you're doing a comic book cover, your art director wants to see your sketches along the way, and you guys have an idea of what the end thing is supposed to be, and they expect it. So some people work really well with very tight parameters. Not so much for me. I have a really hard time for that, but yeah, it's just finding the balance in between, what makes you still enjoy creating within the parameters of how little time you might have to do it.
Yeah, I think a good suggestion just to people out there listening who maybe sometimes struggle to kind of like either complete something or they struggle with not being happy with what they end up completing is to like maybe try doing something completely different, like whether it's writing, like outline it completely, or if you outline things beforehand, don't outline at all, just go like stream of consciousness. And I think the same applies for painting and everything else.
Yeah, definitely.
What are some things that like on a daily basis kind of hold you back from being creative?
Oh, I don't get a lot of sleep.
That's the worst.
That's a big one. Like I said, a lot of my only chances to work are when my daughter's napping, and every day, especially if I had a really bad night of sleep, I have some insomnia, or just my kid just decides that I'm going to wake up 4 times tonight. It's a matter of deciding whether I'm going to use that hour and a half, 2 hours to catch up on sleep so that I can work later at night, or working at that point and just kind of deciding that if I feel up to it later, I'll work again or not. But anyway, so that's a huge thing. Also, I don't know, it depends on what I'm working on, because if I'm in the middle of a project, it's a lot easier to pick up and keep going. But if I'm just starting one, there's sometimes a couple days where I kind of need it to mull in my head before I get started. But, I don't know if that's procrastination or, there's a word for it. I remember seeing this article where you're not a procrastinator, but you're the kind of person that, has something stirring in your head. And so you're not procrastinating, but you're still working on it. It's just still in your head. So that's kind of a thing that, goes on with me a lot. So I don't get anything done for a couple days, and I don't know if I'm procrastinating or actually being productive, but
Right.
yeah. So just like anyone else, I have trouble starting on new projects just because I'm either anxious about going into it or I just want to be lazy. Yeah, that's a big thing for me as well, is laziness. I have to fight
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh, that is my that is my biggest vice, is laziness.
Mhm.
I just and you're right, it is hard to sometimes kind of figure out if am I being lazy right now, or am I like scared to start this, or do I just need time to like kind of fully process and not necessarily plan out what it is, but like kind of fully grasp what it is I'm about to create.
Yeah, that as well as I have so many other interests. I've just recently taken up playing a few computer games. But I
Cool,
also
which ones?
okay, so I started BioShock Infinite a few weeks ago.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm actually going to do a piece based on it. I'm super excited.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah, yeah. So, so I started
BioShock
that.
is so fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. I started that, and then it's like, okay, this is research, so it's totally okay for me to play this for 6 hours today,
Yeah, I mean,
and even
yeah,
if part
it's
of
true and false.
yeah. And then, at some point I'm like, all right, I really have to get back to work, and I put it down, and I don't know. Yeah. So it's really hard for me to allow myself to get into things other than creating because I feel bad, or I just get totally sucked up in it and lose motivation to actually work on anything. So I have to be very careful about that stuff.
What have you found has been like a good way to balance that? Because I'm the same way. Like currently, I'm totally sucked into this podcast and everything that kind of goes around with it. But I don't really allow myself the free time because I'm afraid that I'll get kind of back in those bad habits. For me, it was video games. A few years ago, and then recently it's just Netflix.
Yeah.
It's just watching TV on repeat.
That's a black hole.
It is. It's an abyss.
So this is kind of a recent thing for me to figure out. Because last fall I just had project after project after project, and I was really getting close to being burnt out, and I needed a break, but I just couldn't let myself take one because I just felt so guilty. That's when I decided that, okay, I have a little space in my schedule. I'm just going to give myself 4 days to do something, anything that's not creating, but is still stimulating. And I picked up Transistor, which is another video game, a computer game. And I already did a piece on that, which that game is incredible. But yeah, so I played that for like 4 days straight. It's a short game. I knew that going into it, I wouldn't be stuck playing it for weeks. So I just kind of plan ahead, which I don't know, maybe that takes kind of some of the point away from taking a break to mentally recharge. But that's the way that's working for me so far.
I think that that's perfect because you kind of then allow yourself to be okay, like to be sucked in, because you know that it's only going to be for a certain amount of time. If you kind of give yourself an endpoint where you're like, all right, I'm going to like let myself get lost in something, because I think that's the kind of the point of doing things in your free time is to get lost in it, so that you're not constantly thinking about, I should be doing this, I should be doing this.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that my husband had to like help talk me into being okay with it, because I was scared to get into playing video games, or watching a movie is fine, that's like a couple hours.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
like, yeah, getting sucked up in anything else, because I can't read books anymore because I'm a person that picks it up and I don't do anything until I'm done. So yeah, it's a really hard thing to balance. So I just try to prepare ahead of time and get an idea of, can I take 4 days off to do this? So
Right. And yeah, I think like you said, a movie's fine, but like Netflix,
yeah.
like starting Lost is like not
man.
good, because you get sucked up into that, and it's that it's like 6 seasons long, I think it is.
Yeah. I did that one a couple of years ago and watched the whole thing in a matter of like a couple of weeks. I didn't get anything done.
Yeah,
Good luck with
I mean,
that.
that's what happens. Yeah. But and also like with video games is like choosing wisely, because there are video games there that like could take your life away from you.
Oh yeah,
because there's no end goal, there's no winning.
Yeah, that started to happen with like Skyrim or one of those
Oh yeah,
open world games. I don't
yeah,
even touch that stuff. I can't
yeah,
do it.
yeah.
But yeah, I had to put down BioShock Infinite. I haven't touched it in about a week and a half just because I really needed to move on. But it was fun while it lasted. I'll probably return to it at some point. But
Think back fondly.
Yeah.
Could you maybe take us back to one of your worst moments creatively, and tell us that story?
Oh gosh. Okay, so I have only ever had one full-time regular job ever, because I've always been that person who was like, I'm going to be an artist. I'm going to make this work. I'll keep part-time jobs and just like come up with the rent money with my art, no matter what I do. But I did have to take a full-time job after I got married because my husband lost his job like a month afterwards. So I started working as a preschool teacher full-time. And that lasted for like 6 months, and I created 4 tiny pieces in that time. And it was the worst. I was super depressed. I had to get on stuff. I'd come home and just be exhausted, didn't do anything. Actually, I think that was when I watched Lost. Now I remember that was when I watched Lost for the first time. So I would just watch like a couple episodes of Lost when I got home from work and then just go to bed. And it was the worst because I was just not creatively fulfilled. I was super depressed. And my husband was like, I don't like this version of you. You got to figure this out. So I ended up quitting that job after about 6 months and went back into just part-time work as a nanny, which was great because I just worked in the afternoons. So I painted all other times and I was happy again. It was great. And then after doing that for a couple of years, maybe like a year and a half or so, I was finally able to go full time as an artist. So, but yeah, like that's that whole thing. It was a good lesson for me to know that while sometimes I'll get like really bummed out about being an artist and then like wishing, kind of like being jealous of people with normal lives that have like the 9-to-5 job. And it's kind of like in Fight Club when he's got like the IKEA catalog and just, the cookie cutter life and stuff, and having all your choices made for you. And just, I'll have moments where I'm like really, really envious of people that, I don't know, maybe they're not haunted by, pursuits that they dreamed of and they just gave up or, settled. But then I just kind of imagine there's people who like that's their life. That's, they just worry about paying the bills and like going out for drinks after work, after their office job or something. And
sure.
And just realizing like, I can't have that life. I'm not that person. I can never be that person. So I just gotta make with what I have. And I gotta say, like, I have an amazing life now. I have everything I worked for, and it's just like, it's the best. I could never ever go back.
Yeah, I think it's an important thing to see and to kind of see that the grass isn't always greener on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And what you mentioned about, people who just pay the bills and go out for drinks after, I think there's a lot of people that hide behind that or get stuck behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully they're listening right now. And the reason they're listening is probably to get some people in their lives to tell them that, all you got to do is kind of just start and try. And, you might be completely swamped and all you can do is watch 2 episodes of Lost when you get home. But to try to kind of like incorporate art into your life and do that kind of thing that's on your brain instead of watching Lost, if you can. I think that's the push we're trying to make.
Oh yeah, and it's so hard. Like just even the 6 months for that lasted, it, the few times I was able to work on something, it took everything in me to work up the energy to even just put pencil to paper, because I was also getting out of practice. It's, drawing is a skill, not an innate born talent. So when you stop, doing that for a while, you lose that skill. So you're also dealing with confidence issues when you're in that situation. And yeah, it's a mess. It's hard. It's so hard. I really feel for people who are struggling to, you know, to reach their creative pursuits while also, doing the 9 to 5. Yeah.
It's very tough. And I guess like you said, it's kind of just practicing every day and just kind of like incorporating it even a little bit into your life every day so that it's kind of like on your mind.
Yeah, it's a muscle. When you stop using it, it's you forget pretty quickly how to properly use it. So yeah, for people who are struggling with that, just even if you are binge watching something, that's totally cool, but be inspired by it. You're watching Lost, is like, that 1 second the polar bear shows up, I gotta draw that polar bear. Like I'm a lot of my work is what I guess people would call fan art. But I'm so inspired by the things that I love that I just have to get it out of my system. And so like I was saying earlier, like I played Transistor and I was like, I have to paint her. She is so awesome. And then I did, and I got it out of my system. And so that's probably one way to like, that's a possible workaround, that using the things that help you relax from the 9 to 5 to inspire you, to get back into your creative pursuits or, take them further.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, I've never even heard of Transistor.
Oh, it's so good. It's awesome.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Well, let's get happier now, and let's talk about maybe your best moment creatively.
Okay. When this happened, I didn't know it at the time, what was really going on, but in retrospect, I have to say that while I was in college, I didn't go to an expensive art school or anything. I went to a university, like a state university with a little art program. And I just wasn't feeling like I was getting out of it what I wanted. So I kind of took the reins myself. And I gave myself a project, which I called 30 paintings. And in the span of about 6 months, I created 30 paintings. And the whole point was for me to test different styles, different media, different techniques, all kinds of stuff that I just wasn't getting to do in my classes. And it worked out really great because in the end, I had a little bit of a portfolio. I had like, maybe 8 or 9 pieces that I felt really good about that I wanted to take further. And by doing that, I think that really set the course for the rest of my career. Because what I saw happening was a lot of fellow students just relying on their assignments to take them where they wanted to be, or they probably didn't even know. I don't think anyone knows in college where they are going to end up. It's just another 4 or 5 years of high school where you still don't know what you want. But yeah, by doing that, I was able to pursue a lot of opportunities that I couldn't have gotten by the basic projects you get in college. So I think the best moment that came out of that was realizing that, I'm graduating and I have lots of stuff lined up. I had lots of exhibitions lined up. I was already published in a couple things. And I felt like, okay, I think I'm going to be one of these people that leaves college with an art degree and still uses it. And yeah, in retrospect, I think that whole pursuit is probably one of my proudest, best moments, I guess. It was just I was very, very, very ambitious and goal oriented, and the whole mantra of only 1% of art students, will actually make it. It's just like, well, I am going to be that person. Why else am I here?
Right.
So I just kept that in the forefront as I went through it all. And I think that when I graduated, after doing what I did, I was on the track for making that happen.
I love that idea of, just taking the reins, as you said. And if you're listening to this and you're in college or whatever, and you don't actually like your art program, you don't necessarily have to leave it in the hands of, what's assigned to you. Take it into your own hands. And, that goes for really anything, not just being in school. It's just take matters into your own hands and do it yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And especially now with, if we're talking about college stuff real quick, a lot of people are finding out that you don't need a traditional 4-year program to get the education that you want. There's tons of workshops out there, online classes, and all that kind of thing. And I'm still like eager for education. So I'm going to these workshops and signing up for these online classes still. And a lot of people in them are, self-taught artists that are going that route because it's cheaper and you have better access to professionals, and it's super helpful. So just a little tidbit about that you don't have to go into debt to to learn what you want to learn.
Absolutely not. And also, if you are older, like you're not college aged and you already have your career and it looks like your life is set out in front of you and you can't take the time or afford to go back to school, yeah, you definitely don't have to. There's so much out there, and it's really just about kind of practicing it yourself, and then hopefully finding a friend, finding a mentor, and just finding kind of a support system to kind of help you do that.
Oh yeah, and there are entire communities surrounding these classes and workshops. One I'm doing this year in June, I think it's in June, is called the Illustration Masterclass, and most of the people in there are in their late 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. These are all people that are mostly just beyond the traditional college age that and a lot of them are returning to art as a second career, is one that they want to make their primary career, but it's not where they currently are. And I taught at a workshop last year called it's called The Fantastic Workshop. It's based off of some guys who run a great webcast called One Fantastic Weekend. And
sure.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's been mentioned before.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I taught with their workshop, and there was a woman there. I think she was in her 60s or 70s. She was a primary care physician, like a family doctor. And she was there oil painting. Her work was wonderful. And she was like, this is what I want to do. I've wanted to do this my whole life, and I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. It's just so awesome to see that. It's so inspiring. I know. And she was great too. So, plenty of people that is some serious confidence to have not given up that far into your timeline to pick it up. It's so awesome. It's so great to see that.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to live in this inspiration that we're feeling right now. Like, if you're listening to this and, whatever it is that you kind of have put as a blockade in front of you, it's not a block. You can definitely work around it. And whether you have kids and full-time responsibilities, whatever it is, the whole point of this is you can do it. So just find a way to do it.
Yeah. When I hear that, I think of like in the Zelda games, when you've got like a literal block, a puzzle block, you got to figure out and move around, and so you can go to the next room. What's that?
Yeah, no, there's a way to work around it.
Yeah, no blockage is a permanent super glued rock. Everything is movable.
Zelda references, love it. Is it really 1% of art majors?
I don't know. That's just what they say.
Is it?
To be. I love a lot of the people I graduated with, but I think I might be the only one that's doing it as a full-time career.
Yeah.
I know a couple that are very close, but they have part-time jobs, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like I was substitute teaching in elementary schools nearby just so I could get out of the house.
Right.
So nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I think, I don't know. Might be different for those, the private art schools like RISD or something where,
sure,
it's more career driven, but I'm not sure.
Well, my hope is that, even if you can't do it full time, like hopefully those people still do art, and still enjoy it and don't kind of have this like, bad feeling, I guess. Mm-hmm. I don't know what, like they don't like regret like having art as a part of their life and try to like push it away.
Oh, I know. It's such a bummer to see, it just like on NPR article comment sections where, they're talking about useless degrees or whatever. And, people like acting like they regret having gone and gotten a liberal arts degree or, a fine arts degree or something. And it's just, what a bummer. Like, hopefully it shaped your life in some way.
Right.
But I don't know.
Well, I'm in a similar situation. I was a computer science major, and I don't do anything with computer science. I connected with you a lot with that because my teachers sucked. Like, they didn't know what they were talking about. They would just give us a book and say, do lesson 1 or whatever. If you ever had a question, this isn't all my teachers. This is one teacher in particular, but I happen to have her for most of my courses. But if you ever had a question, they didn't have the answer. It would be like, oh, work with somebody else to find the answer. So it was a big bummer in that respect.
That's so disappointing.
So sometimes it is not a good situation, but hopefully, people can get something out of it. I cherish my 4 years of college though, because I made the best friends and I had a good time and I learned a lot about myself.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, same.
Career-wise, I'm a poker dealer now. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do you have like a greatest inspiration or, besides, you already mentioned video games and stuff like that, but what do you draw inspiration from?
I get a lot out of art annuals, art books. One of my favorites is Spectrum, which I recommend checking out for, it's like sci-fi and fantasy illustration. Not just illustration, a lot of that's gallery art too, but it's super awesome. Yeah. And on that note, like, it can be really hard to look at artwork that is way better than yours and like way, someone with a skill set that is just like blows yours, like, yeah, it's not even there. But for me, I try to be inspired by that instead of
disheartened.
Yeah. I just try to be. It's so easy to go in the opposite direction, but yeah, I try to approach that with a mind of, okay, what can I learn from this?
Absolutely. Do you have a favorite book or YouTube clip or video game, I guess, that you draw inspiration from, and that maybe we could too?
Gosh, what comes to mind? Okay, what comes to mind is like I listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of music, but I actually get a lot out of podcasts like Radiolab.
Love it.
Oh gosh, so good. And story-driven ones or even like fictional. There's one called The Truth, and it's a lot of they're very short stories, but a lot of them are really bizarre. I love that. I love getting to hear these really awesome short stories, and it's really inspiring. But yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, I get inspiration all over the place, not just art-driven things,
Right. Cool. Okay, it's time for our final push, and this is where I ask you to reach through the microphone, grab the shoulder of one of the listeners that you have already inspired today, and give them that push into taking action into their creative endeavors.
Okay, so I have to say that, once you've got some goals figured out and you've got a little bit of a path set ahead of you, this is like take path A for the happiest life you could have, doing what you love for a living. And path B is just continue doing what you're doing already, whether it's, safer, more practical, more stable. What is going to make you happy in the end? What is going to make you excited about waking up? And what are you going to go to bed with on your mind every night? Go for the happy life. Go for the happy path.
Yeah, and it's, I guess, just figuring out which of those paths it is.
Yeah, exactly. Whether you're doing a little bit of both. What's going to make you excited to get up every day?
Yeah, absolutely. Kelly, thank you so much for coming on the show today and for giving us that push. Thank
you so much for having me.
Of course. And you can find Kelly on her website, which is kellymckernan.com. That's KELLYMCKERNAN. And on Twitter and Instagram, she is Kelly_McKernan. And on Facebook, she's Kelly McKernan Art. You can also check out her store at kellymckernan.storeenvy.com. I highly suggest that you do check that out because her work is amazing. So, Kelly, thank you again so much.
Thank you.
So cool. Awesome conversation with Kelly. So like I'm a complete snob when it comes to watching TV. I love just like losing myself in a show or a movie. It's pretty much like the entire reason that I watch anything, in order to become like immersed in that story, in that universe. And my wife thinks I'm such a dork for it, because I'm always telling her to be quiet if she wants to, talk during an episode of Game of Thrones or something like that. But for me, the point of watching it is to become lost in it, and without a doubt, that is what I do with video games as well. And I can't even imagine what it would be like in virtual reality. I can't wait for virtual reality. Oh my God. So one of my favorite things from this conversation was like not only the idea of, carefully choosing your distractions and, giving yourself permission to be distracted or to become immersed in something else completely, like video games or TV or movies or whatever it is that, isn't your creative outlet, where you are outputting things into the world. But this idea of, using those things that you use to chill out to inspire your creative pursuits, like literally using your distractions as inspiration. There's no reason, that they can't spill over into each other. And I just love this idea to kind of choose wisely, to allow yourself to be distracted and to just choose your distractions wisely so that you don't go down like a never-ending abyss, and also so that you can actually like kind of pull something out of the distraction itself. So awesome conversation. Thank you again, Kelly, for coming on the show. I appreciate it so much, and hopefully you're all inspired today to go and do some work. And be sure to go to the show notes page at yourcreativepush.com/Kelly McKernan, where we have all the links to all the resources we discussed, including that article that she mentioned in the beginning. Are you a procrastinator or an incubator? It's definitely a very cool article, and links to the podcast that she mentioned, as well as a link to her watercolor tutorial, which is amazing. You got to check it out, especially if you dig her art, which is also on the show notes page. I don't have any time for iTunes shoutouts today, but I just have to tell you that next week is going to be an awesome week episode-wise, and, I can't believe the momentum that the show is building, and like people like Kelly McKernan are saying yes to me when I ask them to come on the show and to inspire people to do work. It's just amazing, but some awesome things to come. If this inspired you today, you're going to continue to keep getting inspired. I promise. So stick with it. Make sure you subscribe. Thank you so much for the support. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you so much for listening, and get some work done.